Hi everyone, welcome to a new RC documentary. Before we get into that, however, I would like to make a few service announcements. This project was delayed by roughly 5 months simply because Rocketo wasn't able to find any narrators, considering both me on board and TC Gamings has permanently quit the server, and along with that, these projects. So if you are interested, talk to Rocketo. But with that out of the way, let us begin. Chapter 1, First Balkan Empire. The early history was predominantly made up of Bulgaria and Macedonia. Bulgaria was at this point led by Wenzel, and with Olga as co-leader. Meanwhile, Macedonia was led by Ark and Scorch. Little trivia is that early on, Senkis, the leader of Scythia, waited a whole 7 hours for Wenzel to log on so he could invite him to a nation, only to immediately get rejected. Bulgaria and Macedonia were early rivals. First violent conflict started with Bulgaria claiming Thrace to get access to the Aegean coastline. Conflict ended in a total Bulgarian victory and was resolved with several territorial swaps along the borders. The conflict also included the Bulgarians putting up upside-down crosses on the border of Macedonia. After some time, Bulgaria and Macedonia signed the Open Balkan Initiative. Exact terms were lost to the sands of time, but the general idea was to connect infrastructure and trade more. After quite a while longer, you'll note here I'm speaking very ambiguously, because no one has exact dates for these things anymore. But later on, Bulgaria and Macedonia merged, creating the Balkan Empire, also known as BKE. Athens would join the empire by going bankrupt and then being sold to Astrixa for 55,000. Astrixa went to the town as a major, and as a direct result Serbia was destabilized due to overextension. Put a pin in that. They would also later acquire most of Anatolia, the Levant and Egypt. Few days after, Mr. Iron L would revolt, which sent the nation into complete panic because they had almost no gear. However, Senkis of Scythia gave them several military sets, which caused Iron to surrender. Then I need to mention the Eurasian Confederation. No, not that one. This one started as a coalition against Third Rome, or Thierry. Eurasia would later change their name to Greater Eastern Order, or Egeo. The name change was also to lay claims on Scythia. Scythia and the Balkan Empire were allied, and the Great Eastern Order already occupied Scythia and Crimea. When they declared war again, the Balkan Empire came to help them. There were a total of 43 fighters, Great Eastern Order also being helped out by Sigrid and Kara. The Great Eastern Order won, which completely annihilated Scythia, and its plane instead moved to South Africa, creating New Gothia. The Balkan Empire, though, wasn't hurt directly by this war, but it still collapsed due to inactivity. Let me also put a pin in Astrixa. He wasn't important yet, but he did play on the server at this point and was in the BKE. Chapter 2. The Balkaners Strike Back. The first towns were Serbia, Macedonia and Bulgaria, and primary players were Olga, Ark, Astrixa and Scorch, and they immediately went off to the mines. Ark was the first emperor. At this point, there were 15 towns in the whole of the Balkans. Just imagine the traffic. But more importantly, that made it harder to restore the old borders. Astrixa and SNC, the leader of the then superpowered Byzantium, were friends, so he agreed to simply leave Bulgaria to die for 5,000, and the same thing happened a few days after with Serbia. That was what BK could claim. They also didn't want to overexpand. Put a pin in that too. I know this isn't really a Chekhov's gun anymore, more like a Chekhov's machine gun, but stick with me, we'll have a payoff. Bulgaria was the biggest right now. Perfect time for Ark to start saying some ISIS jokes and get bans. Wait, he actually did that? Oh my god. Anyways, new emperor was needed. Here's where I bring back the pin in Astrixa. Because even though he didn't want to be leader, he still got elected. This was also when the Balkan Empire became the Balkan Federation. Few days later, a development plan was drawn up to connect all of the settlements around the empire. However, only Bulgaria finished them. Following this, Bunbun claimed parts of the Dalmatian islands, which Iron considered his, but didn't bother claiming them in over 2 years. Bunbun joined the Balkan Federation, so Iron got angry at them. Iron around this time was in the Mediterranean Empire, which was a puppet state of Byzantium, so Byzantium also got involved. Iron surrendered on the 14th of August 2023, with the Balkan Federation taking a big chunk of northern Serbia. And yes, this is the first time in Thailand we got a fixed date. Even with Med having surrendered, Bis was still at it, so the Balkan Federation offered to negotiate, but hit a brick wall named SNC. I'm surprised they didn't expect this, to be honest. Asterix offered a 1v1 duel instead of a regular war that the Balkan Federation would undoubtedly lose. SNC replied a week later, counter-proceeding a 2v2. Asterix accepted, but the duel never happened because SNC just lost interest and didn't care anymore. Relations between the Balkan Federation and Byzantium were normalized. Asterix went to the Iron to improve relations. Iron agreed to sell Rijeka to Bunbun, while Bunbun would stop being as aggressive to Iron. An ice rail was to be built between the towns, but never was. The next day, the Balkan Federation and the Mediterranean Empire restarted the Open Balkan Initiative, after which Byzantium withdrew their enemy status and Asterix tore down the wall he put up on the border during the conflict. Work started on the main government building called the People's Palace. Another topic that was being discussed around this time was what to do about Sparta, led by Lord Surpka's Five, or just Surupka for short. The Balkan Federation decided attack was the best option, which they viewed as a liberation due to the town being full of Balkan Empire builds. Amongst these builds are also the upside down crosses from the start of the video. After the People's Palace was finished, the Balkan Federation held its first parliament meeting, with the main topic of discussion being the joining of an economic union with Ukraine led by Tiltime Gaming and France led by Blue Skull. During this meeting, they also decided not to expand beyond the Balkans under any circumstances. There was also a chandelier in the parliament, but that was removed because it got in the way during fights. Now you might be shocked at this, because in your nation, you don't fight in parliament. Well, if that's the case, I'm sorry to tell you, but your nation is automatically inferior. A few days after, the Balkan Intelligence Agency, BIA, was established, and its first job was to spy on Srupka to see if he was preparing for war. This way they learned that he had allied with Byzantium. A second emergency meeting was called to discuss the next steps. Asterix and SNC spoke in Bucharest. Asterix questioned SNC about the reason for war. SNC simply hired him as a mercenary and didn't intend to interfere with the war. Blake Minor later also proposed a merger between the Balkan Federation and Russia, but was rejected by Parliament, because the Balkan Federation was still at this point against empires. Ironic, I know. Some Byzantium citizens, whose identities weren't revealed to me, also threatened to support Srupka in the war. Regardless, war was declared on the 1st of September 2023 to get the rest of Macedonia. War was a total victory for the Balkan Federation. No Byzantium citizens ended up helping, despite the threats. The heads of combatants were put on spikes on the borders. The Balkan Federations also allied the Nordarctic Reich, led by Smudgy, Heimdall led by Pretzelpig, and Russia led by Blake Minor. There were 3 ally slots back then. The Balkan Intelligence Agency also learned that Aura supplied Srupka with war material, and so was declared an enemy of the state. No further actions were taken on this front. TC Gaming also started a new political party inside the Balkan Federation, the first outside of the BNDP that had been the ruling party since Asterix became leader. The Serbian farms were further expanded, which made them the biggest on the server at the time. Smudge then leaked classified documents detailing Balkan Federation plans to go for round 3 against Srupka. It was declared at some points. GeoNews only has 2 declarations recorded, but several trusted people said it's happening, so I don't know at this point. The war was won by the Balkan Federation and it was the first siege war. A few days after the town of Sparta was deleted, because the Balkan Federation put a $2,000 per day tax on it, which bankrupted the town almost immediately. This was the reason for introducing the $100 per day tax limit. The next day, Asterix applied for staff and got accepted to be a trade moderator. Ogo was made VP to take care of administering the nation, as Asterix would be a lot more busy now. A parliament session was held on what to do with the territories of Sparta. Someone during the session, unknown who, proclaimed that they wouldn't expand beyond their original expansion plans, because if they do it now, they'll ignore it again later. But it was dismissed because there was a lot of Greeks in the nation, and it was still in the Balkans. The Balkan Intelligence Agency also sent 2 people to North America to construct a bunker, called Ker Moren, with gear and valuables in case of emergency. Parliament sent Seept to claim Greece, and he called his town Mongolia. Asterix came out of retirement, because Oga couldn't understand how Parliament works. SNC was also leaving the server over disagreements with staff, from where he was also fired from. According to SNC, Asterix was the only person who could keep the towns together. Asterix only agreed to take Bucharest and Constantinople, as they were in the Balkans. SNC agreed. All puppet states and protectors were also transferred, including but not limited to Red Wing, the West Slavic Confederation or Zapadoslavia, the Carolingian Empire, Canada, and also a few others. Ark and Scorch were also inactive during this time due to IRL stuff, so Astrixa ran the economy alone. An ice cream van selling nuclear warheads appeared in Balkan Federation, and no one thought that was weird. SNC also claimed Imperator Sumala, or just Sumala for short, was the secret leader of the Great Eastern Order all along. SNC said Sumala would contact Astrixa with instructions, who kept paying for Balkan Federation work, which Balkan Federation never did, but Sumala kept paying. Byzantium bandwave hit, which banned SNC, Aprons, Moni, Dumb, and Loudwhale, with Blake Minor also seemingly trying to get banned as well. Due to these bans, the Balkan Federation was left very inactive. Astrixa claimed he got extra white hair. Now class, please consult your pinned content, as the Balkan Federation just managed to secure the rest of mainland Greece and Astrixa moved there, which destabilized Serbia. It's even funnier the second time. The Hungary situation happened basically. Serbia went sideways due to lack of upkeep. The Balkan Federation requested that Hungary claim the farms and then hand them over to the overwhelmed Balkan Federation claims the rest of Serbia back. Hungary agreed, but when Balkan Federation requested territories, Hungary wouldn't budge. The whole situation rapidly escalated, with the Balkan Federation technically saying the truth, but presenting it in an extremely manipulative and deceiving manner. Meanwhile, Hungarians would just outright lie. In GEO News, to Balkan Federation, to their allies, they even lied to each other internally. It was a complete mess. The situation ended without the bloodshed, with Hungary handing over the farms and repairing all damage to them, and paying $5,000 to the Balkan Federation, in exchange for the Balkan Federation would guarantee Hungarian independence from all external threats. Chapter 3. Korean Wars. First, some terminology. By now, the Balkan Federation was built a solid alliance around itself, made up of the Balkan Federation, Red Wing, Siam, later on it would be called the Tricontinental League, or TCL. It would only be established later. However, I will already start referring to the alliance in this way, as makes the whole thing easy to talk about. On the other side of that, we also have something called the Coalition. Their membership tend to change a lot more, so now is the membership for them before every war. For this war, it was the Sea Differs, Kihara, and the Order of the Ancients. Seeped from the Balkan Federation would obliterate the Coalition, apparently winning a 1v9. Later, the same day, one of the staff members fighting on the Coalition side would propose a change, so that voting would no longer give progress towards active status. Astrixa claimed this change was aimed at preventing Seeps from fighting. I haven't found any solid proof of this, however, the dates do line up, so I will let you be the judge of that. Seeing this, the Balkan Federation decided to manipulate rules to their advantage. Firstly, by starting a vote to promote Slimies from Union mod to mod, as by now he was friends with almost everyone in the nation. According to the Balkan Federation, he was the only staff member to not be biased against the Balkan Federation. This is impossible for me to verify, so again, take it with a pinch of salt. With Astrixa more like a bucket. Asked the Tricontinental League to warn North Korea so that he could leave Kihara and not have to fight everyone all the time. TCL agreed, and Siam declared war on North Korea. Kihara would not show up to the war, only their allies did, which at the time was Sea Drifters and the USA, and the Tricontinental League won. The Balkan Intelligence Agency was also actively trying to get South Korea to switch sides, with the main operative being TC Gaming's. Kihara was incredibly toxic to TC after that. Staff was also using moderator chats to organize geopolitics, with a hint towards manipulating the rules. Chapter 4. TCL Expansion. The Empire of Nicanor was invaded by Siam and forced to lower its title to the Kingdom of Nicanor and turn into an unofficial puppet state. It would also later join the Tricontinental League, even though it was an expansion of the Balkan Federation. But Siam, this act is in my opinion the moment that the Balkan Federation turned to an empire, and we're going to take over a big chunk of the world, which is also the final pin on our board. I should also say that Astrixa claimed it never was an empire, but he also said a lot of things. Astrixa got sick around this time, like hospital bed sick, so he wasn't paying as much attention to the server and wasn't nearly as involved in the nation. Astrixa and Avery, leader of Sea Drifters, had a gentleman's agreement that the Tricontinental League and the Coalition wouldn't fight anyone until Astrixa got better. Slimus was given info on what to do in case Astrixa couldn't respond, as he was currently hospitalized. He used this information to do a full 180 and betrayed the Tricontinental League, rejoining Kihara. Several months later, Astrixa got better, and one of the first things that happened is the Tricontinental League holding its first meeting. South Korea collapsed while Astrixa was online on the same day as the meeting, so he sent a bunch of money to Absulda to create a BKF Korean colony. Now, Astrixa got permanently banned.
Joe.
Astrixa come online because they were losing at core. Astrixa got tilted, started shouting slurs, and got banned for it. Chapter 5. The Swan Song. After the ban, the Balkan Federation was renamed to the European Federation, or the EUF. The remaining players waited for the Great Depression. The EUF was a super poor, partially due to the loss of players, and also because almost all of their gear got wiped when Astrixa was banned. And also maybe because they were getting 100k checks from Somalia. The Balkan Federation also started to have money problems towards the end, but we'll ignore that. In order to get more players, they merged with Hungary and Poland. Hungary added Gundersons, who turned out to be the nation's best PvPer, and also crazy rich. Poland added political instability, as residents of the nation didn't agree with the merger, which kicked off a civil war in Poland, but the European Federation managed to come out victorious. By February of 2024, they controlled every core and treasure ship in range. However, this was also very costly, because not all of their gear had mending, and such had to be repaired with netherite. Casey then gave all of his loot to Silvered, who, with Casey's permission, gave it to Jas Thomas and the old factory shoe. The loot was never seen again. At the same time, Astrixa was gaslighting Gradod about fake reports regarding the server. Casey and the old factory shoe both ran for president. Both candidates attempted to rig the election, but Shu was a better cheater, so he won. Casey became Minister of Defense. Casey was angry at Shu for rigging the election, ironic, and so went to spy on Siam, but it was actually undermining the entire Federation. In preparation for the Nebulan War, Casey, on behalf of the European Federation, told the VOC to distract Siam. It didn't work, because the VOC ignored Casey. Casey sabotaged Siam in the war by taking off his army to farm points, but the European Federation still lost, partially because the server was so laggy it was impossible to get banner cap, and partially because of skill issue. Most of the European Federation was inactive during the war, including Shu. Sardinia was starting to grow in power, and was getting more and more enveloped by the European Federation's defeats. The European Federation declared war on them, so that Sardinia couldn't declare its own war that weekend. Pug Lake, the mayor of Sardinia, built up defenses in only one spot, and staff put the banner on the defended part, despite there being a small part of the island unclaimed. Pug Lake denied this claim, and I don't have a period map to check, so it's unclear. What is clear though is that Silver was the only person to show up for the war and was fighting alone against 20 people, despite having 4 more people in the voice call that weren't willing to join. Next plan was for Casey to return to the European Federation, but Casey didn't really want to go, because of how much free crap he was getting from Joe and Blur in Siam, and hesitated for too long because Grado then found Casey's IP address and banned him for alting and ban evasion. Shu then made a Akemi leader with no process. She was a pacifist. Silver then took all of the gear from the depot and she kept it. A change was needed, so the next week Jas Thomas was put in charge, also with no process. Bulgaria then went bankrupt, and the nation went to an even worse place than it already was, and Jas just quit passing the leadership to AD. Paphlagonia, England and Serbia joined
Union
on a contract and were paid 5 to 15,000 per town to join and stay for a month.
Chicken Mac Chicken.
The mayor of Paphlagonia leaves after his contract's up, gives Paphlagonia to Silvered, and makes a town in China, joining the Hive.
Union
also wants to make a war depot in a Siamese town near a Hive town in southern Pakistan.
Joe.
The leader of Siam gets angry at this and unallies Union over it. Now for the Union City War. The Hive had an outpost south of the Union City, the Union capital. Hive declared war on the Union City. Rules were changed only a few days prior that would allow 2 allied nations to attack 2 different towns as long as they were in the same target nation. The battlefields were Union City, Marquette, and the Hive spawn. Hive, Red Wing, and European Federation coalition win on all fronts. Clack, the leader of Union, along with some other high-ups, go to the European Federation to negotiate for peace and agree to disband Union. Clack from Algeria and Super U5 from Andalusia, both Union veterans, then joined the European Federation as a yoke, but later leave and join the Commonwealth instead. The Commonwealth, or the TCW, and North Sea Kingdom, or NSK, then both declare war on the European Federation. The European Federation counterattacks on NSK-owned Wales, and the Hive attacks Kazakhstan, the capital of the Commonwealth, in support of their ally. With the help of Union veterans and getting lucky with time zones, the Commonwealth manages to win on their front. However, the European Federation completely obliterates NSK in their war, but the town was allowed to return to NSK for payment. After this, Hive goes inactive. Tentacle Gaming gives St. Petersburg to
Chicken Mac Chicken,
who then rejoins the European Federation. Slimies makes the town in Ukraine and becomes leader from 8th, again with no process. Several people get appointed minister to revive activity, and it fails. Around 2 to 3 weeks later, 8th gets permabanned. About another month after that, staff finds out SNC and the Strix have been Alting and bans
Chicken Mac Chicken,
Silvered and Power Ricky, Scorch and more for failure to report Alting. After this, Slimies disbands the European Federation, explaining his reasoning in a long GeoNews post. However, literally everyone who was around at the time was actually willing to talk to me, said it was full of crap. But when I asked them for the real reason, told me completely different and incompatible stories. So I just leave it as Slimies disbanded the European Federation. Chapter 6. Moral. So what did we learn today? Maybe it's that you shouldn't lie to your allies. Or maybe it's that you shouldn't misinterpret facts to the public. Maybe it's that you shouldn't use mod chat to discuss geopolitics. Maybe it's that you shouldn't say bannable things in a semi-public Discord chat. Oh no, we have definitely not learned that. Or maybe the moral is the friends we made along the way, and all the Red Bull Rake drank while editing. Yeah, it's definitely the Red Bull.